Alright, I've just received a flytrap order from flytrapstore.com. It is an excellent source of flytraps, Venus Flytraps. The owners really know what they're doing. They know flytraps, and excellent customer service. And like you can see, they put a live plant sticker on here. Please protect from freezing and heat. It was packed. Each plant, I ordered two. Actually, I had two ordered for me for Christmas. Was packed in its own Ziploc, wrapped in moist paper towels with the roots wrapped. And here they are. There's a Corrigan's, which is here, which is a cool cultivar, and DCXL. This is a young DCXL, fairly young, not super young, and it actually had two divisions as well. These could have easily been sold individually as single plants, but like I said, the Flytrap store aims to please. They were probably growing this as one and it divided. So they sent me both and I uprooted it, which is cool. You can see right there, in the middle, one of the leaves traps was broken off when I opened it, so I saved that actually right here. And I'm going to attempt, rather than throwing it away, to grow another plant from it. I'll stick it in some sphagnum moss that I keep warm and wet, and try to grow a plant from that. I may also try to pull off the stem that it came from, right in there, if I can get to it, and stick that in the sphagnum moss. So I unwrapped these to check out the length of the roots, because I do tray watering most of the time, where I water by putting the pot in a bowl or tray of water and let it absorb the water up into the soil. So kind of have to estimate how much water to give it based on how low the roots are in the soil. So you don't want the rhizome to be sitting in water because it can rot, but you want the roots to remain damp. And when you water from the bottom, it absorbs, picks up the water, and creates a gradient of wetness from bottom to top, where the top is the least wet and the bottom is the most. Here is my seedling and pulling station. I've just put in that extra piece of DCXL. You can see I just stuck the tip of it right down in this sphagnum moss. This is New Zealand sphagnum. It's excellent sphagnum moss. It's been called miracle moss as well. So you can revive plants very well and grow stuff like this. There's the stem that this one came off of. I pulled it off, stuck the rhizome end in there under some moss. Not packed real tight, but enough to keep it moist. And if I'm lucky, these will sprout in, start sprouting little plantlets in anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. As an example, here is a tray where I did the same thing last spring or summer. You can see right there is a big mouth that came from a pulling. This clump came from this flower stem. That is not a specific cultivar. And right here next to this Drosera, behind it a little bit, is another big mouth that grew from pulling. You can see the trap back there that it came from. So back to the plants that arrived. Should also mention that these are dormant plants. It's December right now. So these are smaller than they would be during the growth season. And also a little bit sadder looking. So I've been trying to decide on which of these pots I have to use. The only difference really is the height. and color, obviously. If you're going to grow outside, I don't recommend a black pot. I would paint this or something if you like the pot. These are 99 cents, so I got a whole bunch of them. I'll probably grow these inside, for starters at least. These do not hold up to sunlight. I got it at Target. They'll break down in about a year. But my Venus Flytraps have loved them. Any of them that I've planted in these pots have just loved it. And that probably has to do with my watering habits. I probably just happen to give them the perfect amount of water when I water in these. So since I got some divisions, I'm actually going to use both pots if I have enough soil here, and then compare how they do. As I fill these pots up with my 50-50 peat moss perlite mix, I want to pack it fairly tight, get it firm on this first layer down there, so that it wicks up the water well when I water from the bottom through those holes by placing it in a pot. I don't want to have it sitting in a bowl of water and not soaking up the water all the way and leaving the roots dry. Alright, so I have my 2 pots filled up with CP mix, which I'm using 50% peat moss by volume, 50% perlite. If you watch my video on cleaning or rinsing your media, one thing I forgot to mention is I always recommend making extra, probably about double what you need. For one, it shrinks down, the peat moss shrinks down a lot from when it's dry. 2, you can run into something like this where you end up wanting 2 pots instead of 1. I actually ended up with a little bit extra here, which I'll just let completely dry out and then I'll seal it in a bag. You don't want it moist in the bag because it can get fungus, mildew, or mold. I've filled them up pretty close to the top. There's about a ½ inch left there. It will continue to shrink down into here as it settles a little bit over time, so you don't want to get it too far up because the edge can obstruct light from any low growing plants, especially if the light's coming at an angle. But you don't want it all the way to the top, because if you're watering from the top, it'll run over the edges. You want to give it a little chance to soak in. If you're growing outdoors, this extra lip can give it just a little protection from wind that can help keep the wind from blowing chunks of perlite into your traps and triggering them when they don't need to be. Okay, now it's time to plant them. I like to use a large flathead screwdriver to make the holes that I'm going to plant them into. I'll just stick it all the way down, deep enough to accommodate the length of the roots, and then pull up. I try to lift the soil out around the hole that I'm going to place them down into. And you'll see why I do that in a minute. I'm just trying to make a hole big enough that I can get the roots down in there without getting caught on the sides. And take this guy right here. And when there's longer roots, one thing you can do is make your screwdriver a little damp and sort of wrap the roots around it, and since it's wet they'll stick to it. You can guide them down into the hole. These aren't real long, so it's not really necessary on this one. A lot of the times the traps will be curved like this and make it hard to plant. I try to pinch around the bottoms of them and very gently pull them upwards, but they are real brittle, so you gotta be careful not to snap them off. And this is where the lifting up of the soil came in handy. I hook the curved parts over one edge of the soil and then press the whole mound that I created down in. And you may trigger all of the traps in this process. That's normal. Just push the soil down around it and into it. And then, if you buried any of your traps, you can gently lift them out of the soil with a toothpick afterwards. Get in around the rhizome. You don't want the rhizome exposed. And it'll settle in as it grows. Once it starts growing, since this is dormant. And that's it. Once you have them established in their new homes, I recommend running some distilled rain or reverse osmosis water gently over the tops to clean them off and make sure the roots all get settled in with no gaps around them. It's also very important to be in the habit of labeling your cultivars. You don't want to lose track of them. Without having them labeled, there is really no way to definitely identify one cultivar as a clone of the original from another. I placed them in my garage under dormancy conditions with the rest of the collection. I hope this video was